Can you really live from passive real estate income so you don't have to work anymore and can sit on the beach all day? I wondered about exactly this question years ago when I started to invest in real estate myself. And given the fact that I own rental properties now and hundreds of our clients bought rental properties with us too, I can tell you if that is actually possible or if this is just another lie big YouTubers are selling you to make clicks. Spoiler alert, it is possible, just a lot different than what you think. If we eliminate all the nonsense, all the get-rich-quick methods that don't work anyway, at least here in Germany, there are really 4 different ways to make a living from real estate: 2 active and 2 passive. And the purpose of showing these different methods is to help you make the decision if you really want to make a living from real estate, quit your job and go all in, or if you want to continue working as is, and instead of dumping all your money in ETFs or letting it sleep on a bank account, you buy one property after the other until you eventually have enough passive income to quit your job. The first active way to make it with real estate is probably most well known, at least here on social media: fix and flip. The concept is very simple and easy to understand. You buy a cheap property in a bad condition, something like this for example, and because the property looks like this and needs a lot of work and money of course, you get it for a cheap price. There's a saying in the German real estate community that the profit lies in the purchase. And this is probably nowhere more true than here. You buy a property at a super cheap price, put in some money and work, or more money and no work if you hire people to do the fixing for you, and then you sell the property at a high price because it's fresh and new. You fix it and you flip it. So far, so easy for the concept, but the devil's in the real world execution here, in all 3 phases of the timeline. When searching for a property, the question is, of course, which property should you buy? That question arises for every property purchase, of course, but with fix and flip in mind, this question is especially important because you need to find a property that fits the fix and flip criteria without going over budget. New constructions are easy. You buy them and that's it. Because in the first 5 years, the construction company will pay for all damages. And that is also why financing new constructions is pretty easy. Renovation properties, what most high earners we work with buy, are pretty easy too, because the property price to renovation ratio has to stay within the 15% border. So your risk is pretty limited. That's what a bank knows too. So the financing is easy again. And of course you get huge tax deductions with renovation properties in the year after your purchase. So even if something does go wrong, you can use your tax benefits to fix the issue without putting in additional money. But when fixing and flipping, you buy the most properties possible, so who can say with certainty what the real fixing costs will be? And the higher your fixing costs, the lower the amount you should be paying for the property, right? So you actually need to know the fixing costs before you buy the property. And that is extremely difficult. And that is also why it can be super difficult to finance fix and flip, because a bank wants to know in advance exactly what renovations you will be doing and what it will cost. Let's say you solve this puzzle and buy a property. So now it's fixing time. And who will do the fixing exactly? You can do it yourself, of course, because we're talking about the active methods of making money with real estate. If you know what you're doing and you have at least some skills in the construction game, or you hire people to do the job for you. And here, my friend, I have to tell you that no handyman will be waiting for you to call them, at least not in this current time, and if they're good at what they're doing. So there's not just the uncertainty with the fixing costs, but also the uncertainty with the time horizon until the fixing is complete. Until then, you earn no money, but still you have to pay the bank at some point. Let's say you solve this puzzle too. You complete the fixing one way or another and start selling your first property. Okay, done. Second fix, second flip, done. Third fix, third Hold on a second. Did you think of the 3-Objekt-Grenze? The 3-property maximum is when Finanzamt considers you a commercial business instead of a private real estate investor. If you sell more than 3 properties within 5 years, which will not nearly be enough to quit your job and live from fix and flip only, you will be a business here in Germany. And that means a whole other level of difficulty when it comes to financing, contracts, and all the other good stuff. And that's the reason why we give fix and flip only a 1-star rating, because it is a lot more difficult than social media influencers make it seem. If you are interested in the ins and outs of fix and flip, how it really is, let us know in the comments and we'll try to make a project happen that we can do a documentary on here on YouTube. I think that would bring you guys a lot of value, but let me know what you think. Given all the difficulties of fix and flip, maybe the second active method to make a living with real estate is more for you: fix and rent. This might seem pretty similar to fix and flip, and it is, somewhat in the first stage at least. The difference here is that you hold the properties after fixing them to rent them out. That means this method is a lot more cash intensive because you're not getting a large sum at once when selling the property. You get rental income from your tenant every month. And that means that you can stay a private real estate investor for as long as you want, and Finanzamt will not force you to be a business at some point, which means you can enjoy the benefits of private real estate investors for as long as you want. The 10-year tax-free sale of your properties, for example. And when you decide it's time to transition to a business, you can sell your properties to your very own real estate GmbH company. And how that works is explained in this video. So is fix and rent easy peasy lemon squeezy? Certainly not. A lot of issues we talked about earlier remain the same here, but it's a lot more feasible than fix and flip, and that's why we give 2 stars here. Not a lot of stars on the active side, huh? So let's see if we can improve that on the passive side of real estate investing. Probably the side that is more interesting for most of you guys anyway, because judging from meetings with some of you over the last 4 years, hardly anyone wants to quit their job and go all in real estate. Most of you seem to want to make profitable investments with some passive rental income on the side. And if you want to discuss what's the best way for you to invest in real estate, you can book a free meeting with us right here. Our first passive real estate strategy comes from the US, but we slightly modify it. The BRRRR method stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. And that's why we take out the rehab R, because that would take us on the active side of real estate investing again that we talked about earlier. So the first step here is to buy a property. So far, so easy. Then you rent this property out to your tenant. Either you do that yourself or you hire a property manager to take care of that for you. And now over time, you will pay off your mortgage. Let's say you bought a property for 100k, paid off 10k over time, and the property increased in value by 10k. That means you have 20k so-called free equity from 90k, where your mortgage is, to 110k, where your property value is. So you refinance and repeat the entire process by buying your second property. And now you have 2 properties that generate rental income and free equity for you. So you can scale to a 3rd, 4th, whatever property a lot faster. And that is what we call exponential growth, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, there's a limit to this, otherwise everyone would have multiple different properties in their portfolio. And this limit is kind of defined by the way that you approach the buy, rent, refinance, and repeat strategy. Because there's one focused on maximizing leverage and one focused on maximizing cash flow. We talked about this in our property buying dilemma video, that you have the freedom to decide for yourself if you want to be a Larry or a David. Larrys like to leverage as much as they can by investing as little of their own money as possible and getting as much from the bank as possible. Here's a real-life example of one of our properties that you can find on perfinex.de/properties. The property costs a little over 150,000 euros, and since it's here in Bavaria, we have the lowest purchasing costs in Germany with 5.5% only. That means your lowest investment possible is a little over 8,000 euros only if you finance 100% with the bank. Theoretically, you can also finance the 8,000 euro closing costs if the bank really wants to make the deal, but then your interest rate goes through the roof, so that is usually not recommended. With this 100% mortgage, Larry the leverager will be slightly cash flow negative, minus 70 euros per month in this case. I know you would love to invest €0 of your own money and be cash flow positive from day one. I would certainly love that too, but that's unfortunately not the reality given the current property prices, rent prices and interest rates here in Germany. But if you see it like this, that you have to pay 70 euros a month from your own pocket in order to own a property worth more than 150,000 euros, I think we can agree that this is a pretty good deal. But if you're a cash flow kind of guy, you can also make a 10% down payment like a David. Then your investment goes up from 8k to over 23k, and consequently your cash flow is positive with 12 euros a month. Not a tremendous amount of money, I know, but that's just in the first year, and over time this will increase because the rent in your rental contract will increase too. Now the question that you have the luxury to decide, what's more important for you? Putting as little money as possible into your property investment or getting as much cash flow as possible. I know you want both, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. Important. There's no right or wrong here. You can decide on which side of the equation you want to be, and both sides are just fine. Both sides are a lot better off than anyone else who doesn't own a rental property. The more efficient use of your money is to leverage, as you can see in the return on investment, almost 2.5% higher than the down payment approach. But if you want to focus on cash flow, that's fine as well. 15.5% is still a hell of a good return. Now the main question is, how feasible is the buy, rent, refinance and repeat approach to real estate investing? Because fix and flip and fix and rent received a very low rating, right? Since you can keep your main job with the BRRRR approach because it is passive and it is a lot easier to finance, I would give both approaches a 4-star rating. Let's deduct 1 star for the leverage approach because you need a really good financial situation, mainly a really good income, if you want the bank to give you a 100% mortgage. And let's also deduct 1 star for the cash flow approach because you need a lot of equity to begin with if you want to start making down payments. What did we learn in this video? Basically that social media is full of lies and people painting unrealistic pictures. Can fix and flip work? Yes, it can, but not for the vast majority of you guys, because you probably need to quit your job and make real estate your new profession. What most of you are probably looking for, which I think is the right decision anyway, is to invest in real estate rather than to work in real estate. And the concept of BRRRR, buy, rent, refinance, repeat, is perfect for that. Either with a focus on maximizing leverage or the focus to maximize cash flow. Your money, your choice. And if we can help you with either way, then let us know by booking a free meeting with us on perfinex.de/meeting or the card that you see here on screen. Happy Sunday everyone, and I see you in the next one.